Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, good night, wherever you are. Welcome to another edition of the Ingle and Roger Sports Hour. Roger's not here again with us today. We've got Monali. Maybe it's going to become the England Monali Sports Hour on Love Bay Afro Music Talk Radio. Welcome, Monali.
Thank you very much. Good to be back.
Definitely. There's so much happening today in sports. We wanted to talk about some golf, tennis. We'll get to that a little later. But the biggest news in sports today is South Africa's win over Australia in the Test Championships.
It
Um,
is, and I am finally happy.
yes,
Yesterday, when they closed the day, when they didn't need too many runs, I was like, this can now go anyway when they come back on day 4, but they've pulled it off.
they did. And, a lot of people were worried because they've been known to be chokers. They've given all sorts of different names because they've never won championships when they look like this. It's going to be easy for them to win.
Mhm.
And so everyone was rooting for them. And, hats off to Bavuma. I found out something today that I didn't realize that he has been unbeaten in Test match as a South Africa captain.
Pretty impressive record, isn't it? And
Very
just the
impressive.
amount of grit that he showed in this game to battle through the injury and to continue batting as long as he could.
Yes, I looked at the interviews today and Aiden Markram was asked why did he ask him to continue batting, but he said it was Bavuma's actually the one who said he's going to bat through, and he said he was just a strong guy. And don't know if you saw the end of the game. I watched the end of it, and in the interviews with Mark Kerma, he said that that he felt so nervous come back out now chasing 281 for victory and to get 136 and end up with player of the match. It was something remarkable for him.
Yeah, it's incredible, isn't it? I mean, the
It
nerves
is.
are probably because they've been in similar situations where they've thrown it away, hence, being called the chokers in international cricket. And hopefully, now that they're able to put those nerves aside and win something as massive as this, it might change that mentality going into the World Cups coming up. Hopefully, this is a new beginning for how South Africa approaches these situations.
It will be, hopefully, as you said, a new beginning because, there's some things that were said about South Africa which I didn't find to be fair because they didn't do no schedule. And some of the top players, I think, if I'm not mistaken, Michael Vaughan was one who said they don't deserve to be there because of the way that they got there
Mm.
and the route that they took. Something's wrong with my camera. I'm not sure what happened, but they said that the route that they took to got there, to get there, they didn't play the tough teams, but it wasn't their choice. I mean,
Yeah.
they're not the ones who scheduled. Oh, it's gone off now. Wow. Okay, sorry, my room. Yeah, yeah, they're not the ones who scheduled the games. So I
Mhm.
am not sure why he would say things like that they don't deserve to be there. But I think that they've played some good cricket.
Yeah, they have. They've played some excellent cricket, and I mean, we know Michael Vaughan's a polarizing character. He has some
Hmm.
really strong opinions on a lot of things, and I think it's quite unfair to pin that on South Africa, given they don't come up with the fixtures. At the end of the day, they've made the most of the fixtures that they were given. They've come out on top, and to their credit, they have beaten a top side in Australia, and it
Yeah,
doesn't
they
get much
have.
better than that.
Yeah, they've beaten the top side, and you know what? As I said, they didn't do the schedule. They didn't. They got there. However, ICC made the schedule, and maybe the top teams will now give them an opportunity to play against them in the
Yeah.
future. Kudos to South Africa. I'm happy for them for that win. To be honest with you, and I am so. This morning I was just thinking. I just hope they get that win because I didn't want to see um Australia. Not that I didn't. I was against Australia, but I was rooting for South Africa. Let me put it that way.
Always, always South Africa. If they're playing, they're the number one choice. But it was a roller coaster of a ride in this game too, wasn't it? I mean, both first innings were so short, 212 for Australia. South Africa, I was really hopeful that they would have been able to get a bit of a lead. Bowled out for 138, and for them to come back from there was very impressive.
It was very impressive. And if you look at just to go through the scorecard for a bit, talk about the scores in this match. I was expecting I saw Australia 212 getting ball out on the first day. 14 wickets fell on the first day. And then 66 to Steve Smith and Webster. Bo Webster, he had 72 to get them to 212. And as you said, South Africa 138. It looked like it was the end for them, but they came back in the second innings and bowled well and bowled on Australia for
Mhm.
207. And I felt that the pitch at that stage was getting better for batting. So it was a good spell from Ngidi, who was able to remove Smith, the danger player.
Yeah.
And when I saw the replay on that, it was almost some doubts. He seemed like he was sure that he was out. And then eventually they reviewed and Smith was given out. And I think that was a turning point. But 207, the way the first innings went, everyone thought that that was going to be enough runs. But
Yeah.
South Africa really wanted it and they persevered. And as I said, happy for the people of South Africa. I hope it helps to unite. Remember, there was that rugby first that they won, the rugby world, and then now this.
Now
But
this, yeah.
maybe now that chokers label will come off of them.
Well, I'm really hopeful that they have, or they could have shed it, or they have shed it. We'll have to see at the next big tournament.
Let's see. The next one is going to be the World Cup
Hmm.
in India and Pakistan, the T20 World Cup. So let's hope that they can do something there. Hoping that Canada can qualify and that maybe they won't beat Canada too badly, and Canada can beat them. Hopefully, there's always
Yeah.
upsets in things because, as we saw earlier, we saw UAE beat Bangladesh. So
Yeah.
anything can happen when it comes to T20 cricket. So let's see. But yes, everyone is celebrating, and it's good to see the fans that flew over to Lords, to London, to see them and celebrate. Could imagine the celebrations in South Africa now because I believe there's probably a party in all of the South Africa right now.
And they do take their test cricket very seriously. I mean, their local structure is very serious, very intense. It's from some of the conversations that I've had with some of the players from South Africa, it's incredible the structure that they have between their school system, and then leading up into their club structure. Massive win for them. Massive.
It was, and as I said, kudos to them. And I'm sure the celebration would go on for days, and I could imagine they're gonna have a street parade. I'm sure when they return home, and I will watch that because I could imagine the millions of people are gonna be there to celebrate. And I just hope all of South Africa just gets behind them.
Hmm.
But big win for South Africa. Australians are probably figuring where did they go wrong, but it was just that I think from historically, if you look at the Lord's pitch, first day always dangerous, and it gets better for batting the second and third day, and it's just so happened South Africa got the best of the batting on the third day and into the fourth, early middle in the fourth. And there's also some discussion: should we go back? Should we now go to 4-day Test cricket instead of 5 days?
We haven't seen many 5-day games anymore, have we? Everything seems to be done within 40s. I mean, even this one, a few more overs and they could have potentially wrapped it up in 3 days. Australia's tail decided to wag as long as it did, so it took up a bit of time there. But we're not seeing many games get into the fifth day at all.
No, not too many. And even if it's 4 days, maybe long, many more overs. Some people are discussing instead of 90 overs to 105,
Hmm. Hmm.
and that is something that can be looked on and see what happens. But congratulations to South Africa, and we will discuss some more cricket later on. But before we do that, we just want to touch on a few other sports, and then we'll get back to some cricket. And one of such sport is in Canada. We have the Canadian F1 this
Oh,
weekend
great.
in Montreal. It's
Yes, great.
something that I've always said I wanted to drive down to Montreal to see, but it's always been something that it's summer, it's cricket in the summer, so it's always something that they're not allowing me to go there. So,
You know,
but
we had this
anyway,
conversation a year ago
yeah, we wanted to
on
go.
this
Yeah,
show about how
on
you want
this
to go
show.
down for it.
Yeah, I have friends who call me and say, "Let's go to Montreal," and they're gone down already to watch it, and I can't go. I have a friend who's such a big Formula One. I mean, he gets up at 4 o'clock, 2 o'clock, whatever time in the morning to watch Formula One, and he's in Montreal this weekend, and just can't get the time to go. But one of these days, definitely will get to Montreal. But not the greatest of days for practice yesterday. I think like Norris said it's his worst ever.
Hmm.
McLaren's worst Friday,
Yeah.
he says, in practice, and they didn't go very well. It's probably supposedly they have the best car, but he said he didn't enjoy the track at all. We had two practices. Max Verstappen topped the first one, and then it was second one was by Mercedes, George Russell. And sometimes I wonder if Hamilton is regretting moving from Mercedes to Ferrari because he's not in the top five ever recently. He's always down there somewhere. He's number 8 in practice. He had a
Hmm.
decent first practice, but his second practice wasn't too good. But it's gonna all come down to today, his third practice, and then the fight for pole and see who gets that pole later on this afternoon. So we will keep an eye and see how that goes, and update you on the Formula One. We won't have a result till next week, so we'll update you on the winners next weekend. But other sports that are happening, Manali, and I guess the biggest thing in tennis was French Open last
Yeah.
weekend, and we had two winners. The women, we talk about the winners first, the women, and a good comeback by Coco Gauff to beat uh, Sabalenka, and Sabalenka didn't have very good words, kind words to say at the end, and that wasn't nice. I don't think. I don't know if you heard some of her comments. It's like she was not gracious in losing at all. She started complaining about conditions, but the conditions were the same for both players. She spoke about maybe if she should have lost to the Swiatek, and Swiatek would have beaten Coco, but she shouldn't make those things, say those comments, because you make those comments, then it's not a good thing. But she's had a lot of backlash for the things that she said. But I was really a fan of hers, but I was disappointed, to be honest, with the way she had this speech after losing that game. Coco fought well. She fought from losing the first set to winning. And you have to give someone credit for how they played. She said things like, "It's not that Coco played well; she just played badly." You know,
Gracious in losing is important, but you've always been a big Coco Gauff fan too, haven't you?
very much so. Yes, I've been a big fan of hers. A second Grand Slam win, which was
Hmm.
very good. So I. Last year, I think I told you I went to New York to try to see her, but she lost early, so I didn't get to see her play. So hopefully this year, I'm hoping she'll come to Canada and play, and I'll get to see her at the Canadian Open. Because when I look at the schedule for the cricket, it looks like a lot of clash with the tennis this year. So I may not be able to get to go
you've,
down
you've got a busy summer ahead of you.
to. I don't believe I'll get to go down to the U.S. Open. And similar thing happened on the men's side because Alcaraz came from 2 sets down to come back and win from the men's side. And good to see him winning also because at one point I thought that it was just going to be an easy win for Sinner.
Yeah.
Good to see Alcaraz fight. The only thing about these men's when they go to 5 sets, man, it's long.
Longest one in history so far for a
Yeah,
final.
yeah, it's just too long. And I actually walked away and came back and then looked at it again because yeah, I couldn't stay with the 5 sets straight for so many hours. So I kept checking the score to see what it was at, and then I'll come back and look at it. But good win for Alcaraz. He's a player that a lot of people expect from him. They're saying he's going to be the next big thing after the big three were finished. They're saying the big four now, but I don't believe that it is a big four. But some people say the big four, but it's the big three are done. And I thought that he was going to be the greatest player after, but I am not sure that I agree that he's not been consistent,
Yeah.
and that consistency I think he needs to start getting. He wins and he loses some early rounds sometimes to some of the worst players, and you wonder what's happening with him. But congratulations to Alcaraz for winning French Open, and I'm sure he's celebrating and having fun with that. Anything else you want to talk about on the tennis? Oh, you're good with.
No, just really interesting to see the amount of endurance that these players have to get through these long finals because it's a very high intensity sport and it's high intensity fairly through and through all of the sets. So to be able to have that sort of endurance and that sort of fitness is very impressive. At least if we compare it to cricket, for example, when you're running between the wickets, you still get a break in between when the ball's being delivered, whatnot. This is pretty high intensity almost the entire time, apart from the short breaks that they might have in between.
Yeah, it is. Um, High intensity, as you said, and they're very, very fit guys. So a lot of work that go into their fitness. Uh, you're listening to the England Rogers Sports Hour on Love Bay Afrobeats Music Talk Radio. With me today is Monali Patel. We're trying to get Aaron to get back in. I'm not seeing him. But in the meantime, too, we can talk a bit about the National Hockey League, the finals in hockey,
Hmm.
because it's actually, I did not see the last game, but I watched the highlights because I look at the scores to see, and I thought, okay, that's it, Oilers going to lose. But they came back, tied, went ahead, then Florida Panthers tied, and then Oilers won in overtime. So it must have been a fantastic, and they go out again tonight. So it's gonna
And I
be,
think it's back in Edmonton again today.
yes, correct. So it's tied 2-2, and tonight it's just gonna be something special. I think one of the things I was listening to a talk show the other day, and just the prices and those tickets, and I think we had discussed this before. Like, there's no set price. It depends on the game and the day and
Yeah.
who was won. So
And yet it's
definitely
never empty.
no, it's
I mean,
no,
it's packed with fans, but the atmosphere is so electric too, isn't it? I don't know if you watched any of the last game, but at one point the Oilers were two down, and
hmm
then I had left the restaurant that we were having dinner at, and then to find out that they're going to overtime is just. Um, I'm so glad that the Oilers were able to come back into it.
yes, happy that they can, and hoping for an Oilers win. We all want to see Canadian team win. We were hoping it was going to be the Leafs, but now we know it's not the Leafs, and it's going to be most likely. I'm just hoping for the Oilers because we want to have a Canadian team back in the championship to celebrate at home.
Yeah.
So we'll
The
keep it.
Panthers are a very strong team, though.
They're very
They're
strong.
very strong.
These two teams met last year too, and Panthers won. So maybe it's Oilers now to take a revenge on them. So I think Aaron is trying to get in. He said he's here, but I'm not seeing him. So until we get him back, we
I
can
just
talk. Hmm
Yeah, no, we just asked him to join using the link again, so hopefully.
Okay. Okay, he
Oh,
looks
there
like
we go.
he's good. Just before Aaron comes back on, and last the other championship that's going on is the NBA championship with Thunder and Pacers. And there's been a lot of debate about whether these games are fixed. Do they tell them you play up to a set, and then at the final 2 or 3 games, they said, okay, you go all out because it's tied 2-all. And I watched the game last night, and it was all Indiana until the last 5 minutes or so. And OKC came back and won that game, 111 to 104. So it was one of the first games that I watched outright because I did not have time to watch the other games before. But it was a very good game, and it was just so back and forth that it's. But that's except for one of the games, all 4 games so far has been back and forth until you don't know the winner until the last couple of minutes, and that's what's happened. But now people are thinking it's a money making thing, so they decide it's got to be tied until a certain point.
Who do you think's going to take it?
I actually am thinking that OKC. I thought OKC would have blown them out by now. I thought it would have been, well, at least 3-1 up OKC, or I expected them to win 4-1, 4-2 at max best. But now it can go either way. But I'm still thinking that OKC will win the championship.
Well, you were right about soccer a couple of weeks ago, so let's see.
PSG won.
PSG won, yeah,
I didn't
and they
expect
won
it.
it big. They didn't just win it; they killed it.
Yeah. Okay. Look like we have Aaron with us. So, Aaron, are you? I'm not seeing him still though. Okay, he's here with us. So, he's seeing him and then losing him. And
I'm
if you're
I'm
in,
here
oh,
now.
you're here. Okay. So we've got Aaron Johnson, Canadian national player, former Jamaican player. We're going to talk to Aaron a bit about his journey, what he's doing, how he's played. But before we do that, we want to show you a clip of Aaron at the 2024 World Cup, and it's courtesy ICC. So we'll just show you a clip of Aaron playing against Pakistan, that game where he scored 52 for Canada.
Point get out there, no he can't. It's gone in front of square. They had a sweeper who was behind square, it's gone all the way for 6.
There was time for John.
Up in the air, now can backward point get out there, no he can't. It's gone in front of square. They had a sweeper who was behind square, it's gone all the way for 6.
There was time for Johnson to just hit it over the top, although there was a point fielder in the deep. It was a little risky, but he spanked it so beautifully. Look at that. Nice shot. Good aggressive approach from Johnson.
In the air, long on, it's going to go over his head all the way for 6. Johnson was deceived by that slower ball.
He just commits to the shot. So even though he slightly mistimed, his footwork was all at sea, he still has the power.
He loves bowling with a new ball though.
That's the slider, it's chipped up in the air, will it be taken? No, it's going to go the whole distance. It almost looked like a bit of a leading edge from Johnson, but we know how powerful he is, and even the miss hits, they go a distance.
6, let's have a look against the spin 2. Here we go, good follow through, straight bat, no problem whatsoever. 12 with T20.
There's the shot we were after. Is it going to be enough? It is. Downtown again. It's a wonderful strike, and that'll take Johnson to a 50. The first over, 2 or 3 boundaries there, but he's been quite selective about what he's got after against the mid.
Yeah, Aaron, that was a bit of a clip of you back at the World Cup. Talk us a bit through that. Tell us a bit about yourself, and talk us through about that and the feeling you had at being in the first World Cup that with Canada.
Well, first I want to say thanks for having me. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to your viewers and to yourself and Monali. But yeah, it was just an amazing feeling, as you talk about it's the World Cup, and As a child, you dream about playing just cricket, and then you have dreams of playing international cricket. I've said this several times. I've never thought about playing a World Cup ever, and to see it come true, it's an incredible feeling.
Yes, must be an incredible feeling. Something that you listen to players when they talk about it. I didn't play in the World Cup, but I went to the Commonwealth Games, and just walking out there in the opening ceremony in front of all those people, it must have been special. And when you see the Canadians last year with the Canadian flags cheering you on, getting 50 against a full member, that must have been so special.
Trust me, it's quite special. I can't remember having, probably only one moment in my career I cherish more than that 50, and that's actually when I made my debut, face the first ball in international cricket, right? So, and when you look in the stands, you see just the atmosphere, and to know that you're representing not only yourself and your family, but you're representing like over 40 million people. It's a big responsibility, but it's also an honor and a pleasure. So it was incredible.
Yeah, it must have been. So tell us a bit about where you started, the journey to how you got to Canada, and how you got into the Canadian national team.
Well, I would say I started playing cricket in Jamaica. I would say right in front of my house. My grandfather taught me cricket, but then moving on to school, you play school cricket, and then fortunately for me, I was always blessed with good timing. So I stood out amongst my peers, and I get the opportunity to start playing in England, and I went there for 8 years, and I think that helped shape the way I play and the responsibility I take. Sometimes, not often enough, I don't believe, and then coming to Canada, I get the opportunity again to be a semi-professional. Just come here and play some cricket, and I was in British Columbia. Went to Calgary. I played some good innings there, and I got a scholarship. So, that's where I went to school, and then, back and forth from Alberta and BC, playing for British Columbia, getting MVP in the Nationals, and going back to BC, scoring runs again, coming back to trials, scoring runs. So it was just all sheer passion and performance, and I think the results speak for themselves.
Yeah, they most certainly do. And I mean, you've highlighted a lot of the struggles there. So how do you keep up with all of the travel and just the mental aspect of being able to cope and perform when you're at that time?
I think as I talk about the sheer passion and drive, when you think about that in any walks of life, anything you're doing, if you're passionate about it, like you find a way to get over the difficult times, and that's one thing I always encourage kids. I always say, do something that you're passionate about. It doesn't need to be cricket, but find something that you love and stick to it, because I think as human beings, the only thing that we have to fuel us and to drive us is really the passion that we have for whatever we do.
Yeah, absolutely. Now you're standing at a pretty important tournament starting tomorrow. The World Cup qualifiers, it means a spot in the World Cup next year in India and Pakistan. What do the preparations look like? What are you feeling in terms of your headspace?
Well, it is a very big tournament, right? And we did it before, so I think we have the experience, but we know that it's not easy to get through, right? So, I'm a part of the squad now. I was brought back in the squad, and I'm pretty sure it's because of, the belief that the country, the selectors, the coach, Ingle, has in me. So I take that as a positive. And I have a very clear headspace at this point, and I'm just waiting to do what I do best, try to represent the country to the best of my ability.
Well, we saw a glimpse of that not too long ago in the No Frills series, the T20 series. And
Yes.
I don't think we have a clip of that no-look six, but talk us through that shot.
I don't plan it. But I think one good thing about that shot, and some of my teammates who have played with me for a very long time, they always say that when I'm playing that shot, I'm actually very balanced and confident. So for me personally, it's also a reflection of how I'm feeling and the mind space I'm in, I believe, because when you play the shot, you have no doubt that it's a maximum. So you don't need to run, you don't need to look where it's going, just mentally, it's gone.
Yeah. Now, I know qualification-wise, if the US was in this tournament, it would have been a lot more challenging for Canada. Is there some peace of mind knowing that they're not in the qualifier? And I suppose our toughest competition might be Bermuda.
For me, if you're in the dressing room with me and Coach Ingle, he's in the dressing room, and I've always talked about playing your best cricket. So I don't really. It's not a matter of putting down the opposition. US is a tough opponent, of course. We have struggled against them recently, but personally, I've done well against them. But I think as a team, we just need to back ourselves and play our best cricket, no matter who we play against. In the World Cup, we beat Ireland and we ran Pakistan very close. So, and even US, we ran them very, very close. That was a very good game, and I think that we have the ability to be one of the top nations in associate cricket. So yes, Bermuda will be challenging, but again, they're in our home, so we need to take advantage of that.
Yeah, absolutely. And expecting a fairly decent crowd on Sunday as well. So in terms of preparations, what have they looked like in terms of your net sessions, your fitness? What's the regiment been like coming into this tournament?
I think we have actually been preparing well. I think the guys, quite a bit of us have gotten some scores, and I think there's a more than just the individual performances. I think there's a very positive vibes amongst the group, and even yesterday at warm up, one of the senior players, he did extremely well yesterday also, but he was like, he's not feeling this game. He just want to get the tournament started. So if you're in that mindset, it's like you're on the attack, so you're just ready to go.
And you've had a lot of cricket recently. I mean, Canada's part of the Cricket World Cup League 2 games, not really had results go our way. But in terms of the amount of playing time that Canada's getting, how much of an impact has that had in keeping that focus?
To be honest, it is some amount of challenge. I think this series being at home, some of the guys can just get to do their day-to-day activities still, see family members and just probably go and see friends. That will help us a lot, get out of the hotel, and it's not a matter of you in unfamiliar territory. So you feel at home while you're working, right? I think that's good for us. But as you said, the team has been traveling a lot. I haven't been with the team traveling a lot. And it's actually a good break for me personally also, I think, because the last 2.5 years I've been traveling a lot. So, coming back, I think that we're fresh and we're ready to go.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and we've seen a lot of that in this week with the series leading into the qualifiers. Just a couple more questions for you, but if someone wanted to get to know not AJ the cricketer, but AJ the person, what's something cool that you can tell us about that we might not know about you outside of the cricket field?
A lot of people have me as always serious and very aggressive. I think I'm very chill. I'm someone who just go with the flow. I'm a type of person. I've always said because I'm always training and on the cricket field, and as you say, on the go, I'm a pretty chill person. I just want to relax most of the time.
I haven't really met a hot-headed Jamaican though, so it's that seems to be the
trend. Probably you haven't met a lot of Jamaicans then, but
I was just gonna say that.
but as you talk about that, I think our character speaks for itself. We are very passionate people, and I think that's just from who we are, or bringing the things that we have to, go through to actually be Jamaican.
Yeah.
And, we're just passionate, I think. We do everything with passion, I believe.
But with an ease of life.
True, yes. I would agree to that. And I don't think it's because of anything extra. It's just the way we are.
Yeah, absolutely. And we had a really interesting conversation yesterday after the first game finished when you said, I'm typically not really an opener. I actually like to come in a little bit lower in the order. Could you expand on that a bit? Because you've played an opening role for Canada for quite some time.
Yeah, I actually, so as I say, I went to England and I played for 8 seasons and I never opened the batting, right? I always batted number 3 or number 4 for those teams. And even I used to play at St. Catherine Cricket Club, which had Russell and Ravman Powell and all these guys, right? And I used to bat lower middle order about number 6, 7. So then I moved to Kingston Cricket Club with Brandon King, Fabian Ali, and all of these guys, and T20 cricket was just introduced to Jamaica, first franchise T20 league, and the club captain, not the team captain, but the club captain, he said to me, "Oh, you hit the ball clean, at the back end. Why don't you try and open?" And luckily for me, I just finished with the most runs in the tournament. And then from that, they're like, you opening 2-day cricket, like everything I saw, I have that ability of hitting the ball, but then I had to learn how to be an opener, and then came to Canada opening. Well, actually, club cricket, I batted in the middle here in Canada. And then I told them I want to open. And then I started opening again because of what I did back home in Jamaica. So it's just a debate between myself and one of the other senior players about what position is easiest. But I think cricket overall, it's not an easy sport. But when you enjoy it, it become easy.
Yeah, absolutely. You gotta love what you do.
True. Sometimes you find people who open the batting are the ones who don't like sitting around and waiting and watching. They want to get in there and get it on.
It's so for me, I have mixed feeling on that because I like to get that nerve of going when I'm going to bat. I like to be extremely nervous because that make me focus a lot more. However, sometimes when I wait too long to bat when I'm sitting to bat, I get too nervous. So the feeling and you don't want your teammate to get out just for you to get a chance to bat. But then depending on so it's kind of mixed feeling. But now since I'm opening, I actually quite like going out there and, you'd say take the bull bites on and try and push the game forward for your team.
I didn't think you would be the nervous type, if I'm being honest. You certainly show it.
Trust me, the more quiet I get, the more nervous I am.
Very interesting.
Yeah. And a lot of people, I give a lot of trouble in the dressing room. I joke around, and people don't know that that's a distraction for me from being nervous some of the time. Yeah. So sometimes it's actually a good distraction.
Yeah.
So, a coach once told me once told me if you're not nervous before the start of the game, then he's not going to put me in the 11.
Yeah, because you don't care. It doesn't mean anything to you. Yeah.
Oh boy, now that's a bit of an assumption.
Yeah.
Well, from my experience.
I mean, I got to a phase where I was like, I can't be nervous because you're too jittery to perform then. So I had to get over nerves, but that didn't mean I didn't care, for sure. But it's interesting, isn't it, how everyone deals with it very individually, and even though it's a team sport, you are really your own self in that space.
Yeah.
Just a quick discussion on this team makeup. Now, the squad's got a good mix of senior players and some of the juniors that have come in. What do you make of this squad going into the qualifiers?
I think it's a very strong squad. As we said, we play against the teams, probably week or two of the 3 teams we'll be playing against, and we got very good results, which is expected. But I think we have a very competitive squad also, and based off the mix of the seniors and juniors, I think that not only like the coaches, selectors, you see that they have a vision of merging and including. So I think that's a very good sign for Canadian cricket.
Yeah, absolutely. Fast forwarding a couple of months, we host Scotland and Namibia at home. Well, we've got the coach and we've got the players, so maybe you guys can highlight. Have you started preparation for that, or are we focused on the World Cup qualifiers for now and before we move into that?
I'm not sure if I should leave that for the coach, but personally,
basically focus on the job at hand.
Yeah. Well, I'm focused on each ball that's bowled to me, right? So if after this tournament I'm called to play 50 over cricket, I'm more than happy to put my shoes on and get the job done.
Yeah, and that should be an exciting series as well. I mean, the last game that the Netherlands and Scotland played, 369 runs in the first innings, and the Netherlands were able to chase it. We had one player, with George Munsey, out on 191. Dode, I think he was 150 151?
Yeah, not out also.
Not out, exactly. So pretty incredible game, but it just shows the amount of cricket that the associates are now playing, and the conditions and the quality have improved as time has gone on.
Yeah, definitely, and those two guys are two guys I share the dressing room with here in GT20, and like when you see these guys and you rub shoulder with them and you see that you and them perform like on the same level, and then they're doing those stuff, you see that they're very competitive, they're working very hard, and again, it just goes to show that, as you say, associate cricket is doing well, but just the cricket board themselves, they're actually investing well and getting the results. So I think that.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm just saying, I think that we individually here in Canada, we have, as you talk about the merger of the senior players and the youth, we have, some big responsibilities ahead of us.
Yeah. And you bring up a really good point. I mean, you've mentioned you've shared a change room with those guys at the GT20 last year. And we look at the number of players in the European region who are actually playing franchise cricket, and they're so involved in those global franchise tournaments. Is it an aspect that maybe our players need to start doing more? And if so, how can we get there?
Again, as I say, come down to performance one, and also, I'm pretty sure the board is probably doing some exchange program to try and get some of us out in some of these leagues and having some of those players coming in and playing in our league. So I think that's a good way of getting the exposure, right? Because it's so limited spots. It's a lot of tournaments, but it's way more players. And when you think about, a franchise team having 10, 15, 20 players that does the same role to pick from, it's all connections and how your vision of growing the sport with other boards. So, I think that's a good way, like collaborating with other boards.
Yeah. I mean, just looking at what major leagues come up with, first game started yesterday, and the amount of growth that we've seen in North America. We may not see a GT20 this year, but it will be back next year. And the amount of growth that we've seen thanks to the franchise setup in North America has been pretty incredible. Any last thoughts before you, or I don't know if Ingle's got any more questions for you?
Well, I'm just outside of cricket. Tell us a bit about your new venture, Blue 52. I see that you have gone into some coffee business, and it's called Blue 52. How the name came about, and how that venture started.
So again, like playing cricket in the dressing room, coffee is a like very well consumed drink, and it's a drink that a lot of people love. And back in my childhood days, I used to travel to Blue Mountain, Jamaica Blue Mountain, like where one of the finest coffees grown with my dad, because he used to supply them with chicken manure. So I have that connection with the farmers. So I'm thinking it's a business venture I want to get in. But how the name came about is Blue for Blue Mountain and the 52 in the World Cup that I scored against Pakistan. So I just decided to myself that I want to make it named Blue 52. And again, Jamaican coffee is well sought after around the world. So I think it's something that not only, cricket bring me to the world. So if I can bring something from my country to the world through that, vein or line, then I think I'm doing well, not only for myself, but for my people back home.
Good. Yeah, well, wish you the best with that, and I hope it goes well. And I know I saw you with some packages recently. So is it on the market already, or is it just samples at the moment?
It's available for sale. I'll be selling it. It's kind of expensive. I'm hoping that I still get the support from you guys though. It's like about $45 per 250 gram, which it's competitive to it's similar pricing right around the world that you get in Jamaica Blue Mountain Coffee for. So, and I'll be launching the website pretty soon, probably in a few weeks, but I do have packages ready for sale.
Well, if it's expensive, that must be good, maybe, because you know how it is, and when it comes to consumables, the cheap stuff and there's good stuff.
Yeah.
So, Mountain Coffee, as you said, is known for its greatness, and it's coming from that area. It should be a very good coffee, and I think it's right now it's just a brewed type, but Any plans to come up with an instant? Because I love instant coffee.
I'm actually in talks with the supplier of the instant coffee because unlike the roast and ground, you have to actually process that and do it a particular way, and not everyone can do it. So I'm in talks with the instant coffee, and that's one of the reasons I'm holding off launching the website, because I need to have the instant supplies available when I launch a website.
Okay, thanks. All the best with your endeavors, and wishing you the best with the upcoming tournament.
Thank
You're
you.
free to stay on if you want. We just have about 10 more minutes. We're going to talk a bit about West Indies tour to England. If you want to give your input on that, you're free to.
Yeah, I'm happy to.
You
Yeah,
can
I'm more
stay
than
on
happy to.
and talk to us about that, and also the new West Indies test team that was announced recently. We'll talk a bit about that, and you can give your input. So we'll start, Manali, with the West Indies tour to England, and well, disastrous. Now losing both the T20 and the ODIs 3-0. It's not like West Indies. And right after that series, Puran retired from international cricket at age 29.
Yeah, I want to say that I want to think that it's not expected, but it is expected, isn't it? The West Indies has been in trouble for some time now, and they haven't been able to compete at the international stage. They've actually struggled to qualify for World Cups, which is not a West Indies that we've seen over the years. But the last few years have been tough, and the retirement of Puran, I guess, just goes. I know there are two sides to the story, and I get that the financial impact makes decisions what they are sometimes, and unfortunately, if it's not financially worth it for Nicholas Puran or some of the other top players to play for the West Indies when they're making so much money playing franchise cricket, then that's unfortunately, I can't say you can hold that to a player, because they do have to think about their long-term plans in life at the same time. I think West Indies needs some serious solutions, and pretty quickly, because it's all across the board. It's not just the men, it's the women's as well. And they're struggling very hard right now.
I think the franchise thing is just sometimes an excuse, because the IPL has its window, and then other franchises that they play in, they're not making that kind of money. They make the same kind of money when they play for the West Indies. But I think there's a bit more going on in West Indies cricket than just the franchise issue. That's one of the issues. They get the opportunity and to make some money. But there's so much other things that are going on. I think even things like team selection, when we get into the team that was selected for the test match chances coming up, we see some big surprises. So you wonder if it come through things like, depend on, when you see my island man get dropped and you think he should be in, then I'm not going to play. And those, because the first thing I saw when I saw the Puran's retirement, then I saw West Indies team later in the day, and there's no De Silva, and I'm thinking like that has a factor to do with it. I don't know what you think, Aaron, and either of you.
I do believe that it's very clear that West Indies cricket is in transition, right? And we none of us, well, I'm not sure if you know Darren Samit personally, but he seemed to be the man in charge, and he clearly has his way of doing things, and probably that's that's obviously one of the reasons he got the success he had with West Indies cricket when he was playing. And if you look at the people that he had in the dressing room, and he managed to control those characters. And I think personally, without any proof, this is my observation, is that he's probably trying to do the same with the current West Indies team. Not necessarily have the best talent playing, but the best men in the dressing room. And as you say, I don't think it comes down to what he's getting paid from franchise league, because I'm pretty sure these franchises will work around Puran's schedule based off who he is. But something in my gut tell me that he is not willing to work with some of the things that the management is putting at him or asking him to do. And even when you look at Darren Sammy's interview and he's talking about the people who have been supporting West Indies cricket, he's absolutely right. But I'm saying that no one is watching West Indies cricket for one particular player. They love West Indies cricket. That's the reason why they watch it. So he's basically telling you that no one is bigger than West Indies cricket, which is right. But also, I think with the way franchise cricket or international cricket is going now, we have to understand that some of these guys are genuine superstars, and you have to deal with their ego a bit different from how you deal with some, because they will benefit the region and a whole.
That's true.
No, it's a very interesting thought process, actually, because I mean, player management and man management is important, especially when you're dealing with superstars, as you said.
They are, and gone were the days when, like, people are playing cricket for different reasons now. For whatever reasons we got involved. I remember sitting watching West Indies cricket, when Lara and them guys are about to win a game and Courtney Walsh putting the bat under his arm and all of these things, and you were on the edge of your seat, because it's just love and passion. But those guys, some of them become millionaires out of the cricket, but some played just for passion or for whatever it meant at that time. But for what it means now, you find parents, instead of sending their kids to school, they're sending them to train, to become professionals. So that's where the sport has gone now. So, and part of you becoming a professional is your public figure and you becoming a superstar. So, we have to be careful how we manage that.
Yeah, the game's changed a lot in the last few years, and it's changed very quickly.
Yeah.
Definitely has. I mean, you go back to even further than Brian Lara, Viv Richards, and Gary Sobers. They played for the love. They played for the West Indies crest and people.
Yeah.
And they had a reason, I mean, for playing. But there's a lot of it now. It's different. And you see, at one point, just 3 players who were millionaires. I think the first 3 cricketers who were millionaires were Tendulkar, Lara, and Shane Warne.
Shane Warne, yeah.
But now you've got so many people have the ability to become millionaires from the sport. So it's totally different.
And back in them times, you had 1 superstar in the team. Now you have 6. Now you have 11. Now you have 15 superstars in one squad. So it's just how you manage to manage those characters. And
one of my takes, I mean, and I've said it from day one in franchise cricket. What I would like to see in franchise cricket is a similar setup to FIFA, where if you're playing in the European League or the French League or whatever, then you stick there. Not that you finish a tournament, you jet on a plane, and the next morning you're playing for another team.
Yeah.
So give more people opportunity to earn.
Yes, absolutely.
It goes down to how they've limited some of their leagues and they've made them larger within the league. But we now have in cricket so many small leagues popping up all over the place. And generally speaking, you've got different bodies or different owners in most of them. So everyone's trying to get a small piece of the pie, whereas soccer's controlled very differently. The pie is cut up into bigger chunks rather than little chunks everywhere.
Yes. And you're correct.
It also, when you look at the players, and I think, AJ, you mentioned this a little bit, there are a lot of tournaments, but there are a lot of players. And what we're seeing oftentimes, it's a lot of the same players who are just going from tournament to tournament to tournament. We're not really seeing a lot of players being a part of it, but it's a lot of the same faces that are in most of it. So that, again, is a monopoly in itself.
Yep, it is.
Definitely is a monopoly. And those players, as you said, you see the same players, the same coaches, the same managers, every league and every franchise league you go to. And it was the ones who have the best agents that keep making it.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And what you find is that if in this league the same set of coaches don't like this one player or don't think this one player is good enough, like from the get-go, like who is there to give that player a chance, even if he's doing well? You find more times than that. So it's like, as you say, I've heard senior players in my team say that it's actually a friends club.
It is a friends club.
It is. It really sometimes does come off that way. And the struggles are from a coaching perspective. The struggles are from a player's perspective, from a broadcast perspective as well. Actually had a recent conversation with someone who's played cricket in New Zealand and is part of, has his own little coaching setup in the US. And he's like, how do I get into this setup? Because I have a lot of knowledge. I've worked with some of these players who are part of the US setup, but I'm nowhere involved with all this franchise cricket that's popping up. So good for him. He's been able to secure a spot with one of the teams in MLC, but it's so hard to get in. It's so much networking, and it's really who you know.
Absolutely. And in cricket, we say you have to take your chance when you get them, So if you manage to get that one chance, you better make very good use of it. So
That's so true. We can continue talking for so long on these topics, but it's time has flies, and it's almost 4 minutes till I have another engagement. Promised to cut a little early today to get to it. So, it's been good having you, Aaron. Monali, as usual. Thanks for sitting in for Roger. And next week is going to be a little tight, but we'll find a way to get it done. Maybe live from the ground would be a perfect thing to do, but we will see. I mean, I'm
all
off in
right,
the mornings, but so
all right.
we will see you. Thanks for joining us, Aaron. I'd like to just
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
thanks to everyone for joining, for listening, and have a good weekend. Enjoy and be safe and be good, everyone.